Ready, sir?
Okay, everybody else online, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank
There's
you.
a few of them on there.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order. The time is 10:03. Location is 65 Stone Street. Hillcrest City Council Chambers. We're gonna have our invocation led, which is gonna be a poem from Councilwoman Koss. We're gonna have Councilwoman Warner lead us in the pledge, and then we'll do our roll call. If I could please have everyone stand.
And this is a poem that was shared with the Florida League of Cities yesterday that's been going around that during this troubling time points to some silver linings. It's called "And the People Stayed Home" by Kathleen O'Meara. And the people stayed home and read books and listened and rested and exercised and made art and played games and learned new ways of being and were still and listened more deeply. Some meditated, some prayed, some danced, some met their shadows. And the people began to think differently, and the people healed. And in the absence of people living in ignorant, dangerous, mindless, and heartless ways, the earth began to heal. And when the danger passed and the people joined together again, they grieved their losses and made new choices and dreamed new images and created new ways to live and heal the earth fully as they had been healed. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Okay. Mayor Williams.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Goins.
Here.
Councilmember Bovair.
Here.
Councilmember Koss.
Here.
Councilmember Warner. Here. City Attorney Garganese.
Present telephonically.
Interim City Manager Fuhrer.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we're gonna move on to approval of the agenda for special meetings of the special meeting of April 14, 2020. What is the wishes of the council?
Motion to approve.
Motion from Councilwoman Warner,
Second.
second from Councilwoman Cox. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? It passes unanimously. Okay, we're gonna move on to item number 3, which is council business. Tammy.
Hey, so we called this meeting as a special meeting to discuss the recruitment options for the city manager vacancy. So the plan of the agenda today, first, we've invited Ken Parker, who's a key advisor from FCCMA, who will come speak on different options for the city manager selection process. He's provided each of you a memo, which was part of your packet that I've given you on Friday. I don't know exactly when you received your packet, but we put together a binder, which I believe were delivered to you Friday over the weekend, which was a copy of all of the proposals from each firms that were requested. The firms for the proposals include Colin Bainziger and Associates, Mercer Group of Florida, and Strategic Government Resources. And there's a representative for each firm that will also do a brief representation of their proposals. 2 firms are available over a webinar, so to speak, and then 1 representative from Mercer has come here in person. So we'll start with Ken Parker from FCCMA, and he'll review his options that he put together in the memo for you. I'm sorry. Oh, present from here? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Parker, you'll present from here.
Good morning. My name is Ken Parker. I'm
a senior advisor with the Florida City County Management Association. So thank you for allowing us to be part of this discussion this morning. Okay, each of you received a copy of a memorandum that I prepared and provided to you, and it basically goes through and outlines some items that from a professional city manager standpoint that we believe are salient to this discussion this morning. Okay, first, let me just state that FCCMA and the senior advisors cannot be involved as to do help with your recruitment process. We are limited by our association's policy to only assist small cities in this process, so you're outside of that particular realm. So any comments that I'm making today do not include us as part of that process, so please understand that. Okay, so what that really leaves you with is basically three options that you're out there, and the memorandum goes into some detail about that. The first one is, okay, from our standpoint and from a professional manager standpoint, if you have an internal candidate, someone that you believe meets the criteria, you should pursue that first before you pursue any other option. We believe that that is fair to anyone that would be applying to your situation. If you're just putting it out there to see what's out there, but you're still intent on employing the internal candidate, that's not fair to those that may apply, and that's not also fair to your internal candidate. And I don't know if that's the case here or not, but I wanted to put that on the record up front from that standpoint. The second option is what we believe is the preferred option, and that is using a nationwide search firm. And there are some great benefits from doing that. First is that that's what they do. They're out there on a day-to-day basis, and they are out there helping managers that are looking for positions and cities who are looking for managers and bringing them together to form a good partnership. The second thing is that they do very detailed work. And when I say detailed work, is things such as the background work, all of those types of things that you will need when you're employing the next manager here in this city. That's what they do. Okay, and they are also very good at marketing your position. And if you'll look at any of the brochures or any of the materials that they do a very professional job of preparing those documents that present your city in the best light to encourage those individuals that may be interested in applying to be city manager here, and gives them all the information that they need in order to make that decision. Also, they are very good at calling individuals that they believe meet your profile and meet the requirements of this city. And so they reach out to individuals, and they just don't wait for individuals to apply to become or to be considered for the manager slot. Those are some things that are very good for you as a council. Secondly, the other option that is available to you is to do it internally. But that also has some pitfalls also, especially as we're responding to this virus situation right now. Your city is heavily involved in those types of activities. But also right now, this is budget season. And so there are some limitations that you as a council and your staff, are working under during this particular period of time that could hinder you in obtaining the best quality of individuals that you want to be considered for the manager slot. Let me just then move beyond that and just talk about some items that I believe that are extremely important. One is I put some policy questions together that you need to answer. And so I think that those are some things that you as a council need to discuss and need to come to those decisions. One, is this going to be the council that is going to make that decision? Since I understand there's an election possibility in November, I don't know how many council members are up for election, but that is also something that you should take into consideration. There isn't a right answer or a wrong answer to that one. I've worked with a city who had an election process just like you did. They made the decision that they wanted to make that decision. I had another city council that I was working with, and they said, we want to wait until after the election and see who's going to be seated at that time and let them make that decision. And so there are some of those policy questions such as that. But let me move forward and also saying, whatever your decision is, you need to move forward in unity, together. And that means that the decisions that the council makes needs to reflect the consensus of council and not necessarily an individual's position. And so be sure you understand those types of things. One of the major items that I would always talk with you about, and if I were involved, I would say it's probably one of the most important things that you do is develop what I call the candidate profile. When I say develop the candidate profile, that goes beyond what your charter requires. That goes beyond what your ordinances require. The candidate profile says this is what are the characteristics that we want in our next city manager. It gives it gives the consultant and it gives whoever's working with you, okay, these are the things that we think that we want in our manager. They also will use that profile in helping them when they are recruiting or when they are providing you with a list of semifinalists and saying, we believe that these candidates here are most likely meet your criteria. So, kind of think through all of that. To me, that is important. The second item that I always suggest to City Council is that this is your position. It is a key position. Maybe the most important decision this council may make is who will be the next city manager. So it's important that once that profile is developed, that you adopt it. That is a council adopted profile. This is what we want. So it should come back to this body, and this body says, yes, this is what we want, and this is our agreement. Secondly, is whenever any of the materials that are put together for recruitment should be adopted by the council. Because, see, that's your document. That's what you're saying that you want to put out there in front of the city management community, and actually it's what is sort of the introduction of that manager, the potential candidate, to you as a city and also to you as individuals. Okay. With that, well, the final item I wanted to cover just briefly, and it relates to, compensation. You'll need to have that discussion too. That needs to be a discussion with your consultant. That needs to be a discussion among yourself, and you must come to some agreement of what is that. And there are two components. There's actually three components of that I look at from a compensation standpoint. One is that you need to look at your internal pay. Because a lot of times councils may not necessarily have a good understanding of how that all fits together within your own system. Where are your department heads? What are they being compensated? How are they being compensated by council policy, by your adopted of the budget? By the way, that's council policy when you adopt that budget. Secondly, there needs to be what I call the external, and that may be, what is being paid in this particular area for a position as city manager. And a lot of times you don't necessarily know what everybody is being paid in this particular area. And third is what I call the external market, and that's what is cities of like size are being paid in this particular area. And not only their pay, but what is their compensation and those types of items. All of those are sort of the policy issues that this council needs to really think through before you begin that formal process. Now, also, you need to have some latitude in that, because you may find that perfect candidate, and when you get into that discussions of the particulars and all that, your council person or whomever is negotiating on your behalf needs to have some flexibility. Then finally, when a document is brought back to the council, and when I'm talking about like the contracts document, be sure it's fully explained. I've seen some councils get into an argument after they've had a candidate, they've hired the candidate, and when it went wrong and they were about to terminate the candidate or terminate an individual, there were council members said, I didn't know that was in the agreement. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So be sure, whomever is involved, that there is a full discussion of that contract, and that so every council member has a good understanding, and it's on the public record, and things of that sort. With that, I'm available to answer your questions. We are a resource. We're a resource to you. We're a resource to your staff, and we're always available. You have any questions?
No, you did a great job of touching on some key points. Some that I had identified already, but then some that I didn't. So, appreciate it.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. The first one, how long is the average time to post a position?
Well, that's up to the council. I've seen some as short as a month. I've seen some longer. I don't particularly would carry it much longer, but somewhere in the 1 month range to 6 weeks range. Now, your consultants they can advise you on what they're seeing in the current marketplace, and they can tell you more about that. But really, what you're going to normally find is that in Florida, and this is just my opinion, the consultants can tell you differently, what I've seen is that Florida managers are going to be applying at the very end because of the sunshine laws and all of that. Now, that's another advantage of using the consultants, because all of the applicants go to them. Okay, if you're doing it internally, they come here, and those records become available immediately. So that, I would say, probably in that 1 month, no longer than 6 weeks range.
Okay. And the second question is, because of the situation that we're in now with dealing with this pandemic, what time frame you think it would be good for us to begin? Because it's a lot of updates being done, weekly, daily. To be fair to, if we do choose to go with a firm, it'll be a national search. So to be fair to those applicants, what date do you feel, or what month do you feel would be good to begin that process? Because it's kind of up and down right now with April 30th or May 1st or May 3rd, whatever it may be,
Well, the advertisement process, one of the things, and I think the firms each will address this issue, but part of the developing of the profile normally is that there's a questionnaire, there's some meetings with you as individuals and all of that in order for you to, maybe clarify items within your, what you have written or what you have provided. And also from the standpoint as they begin to, ask additional questions and all that. Now, it's going to be a little more difficult in a one-on-one relationship. They can probably do it telephonically. We can do it by Zoom. We can do it a lot of ways nowadays. But that also has some impact on it. The second portion of that impact, though, probably comes more at the end of the process, and that's when you're doing the interviews. Right now, I think that some managers would be sort of kind of reluctant, to even have their names put out there, because some cities will look at it as that you're abandoning us right now in the midst of a critical situation of the pandemic and all of that.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to put yourself in that boat, nor do you want to put the candidate. So it's more probably on the backside of this date type stuff. That's just my opinion.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but your presenters from the three firms, they may have a better picture of that than I do.
Okay. I appreciate your answers.
Are you done?
Thank you. Yes.
Councilwoman Cost.
Yeah, I was going to say, I appreciate you being here and sharing your experience with us. So I have been a part of, in one shape, form, or another, 4 executive searches. And the idea that we would put off the decision really concerns me. I can't imagine a business during a time when they need leadership, the best leadership, abandoning that responsibility. I mean, certainly a board of directors would never do that. I mean, I can't imagine the nonprofits that I work for would never have done that. You're probably not aware, but there's a lot of interest in this position already. This was a very highly paid position by our former city manager relative to other municipalities in our county. We already have people that are interested and even started lobbying before it was actually open.
I hope they weren't professional city managers.
Perhaps not, but I'm not
If
going
they
to get
are,
into
that's a
who the
violation of the
people
code
were.
of ethics.
Right. But, so that's a little bit of an issue. The other thing is, I wanted to ask Anthony if he's on the line. I mean, it's my understanding that according to our charter, which is our constitution, this council's, that we have a responsibility to make this decision. Anthony, are you there?
Yeah, no, I'm here. I just wanted to, I put my phone on mute so it wouldn't
Okay.
be any interference. Correct. City council makes this decision. The charter requires the council to make the decision promptly, and it requires 3 votes of the city council. Other legal requirements are that the council needs to hire this candidate solely based on executive and administrative qualifications. And of course, council has the obligation to establish compensation and conditions of employment.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, we have
welcome.
6 months to go until the election, and it occurs to me that the next council, they will have a role with the city manager. I mean, if they don't like the city manager, if they have a different direction. I think one of the things when, in this whole transition process, because of everything that was happening and also just the process itself, perhaps the public, I hope they understand, this was not, at least for me, our former city manager leaving was not, it wasn't personal, it wasn't a personality conflict, it was a shift. It was a shift that I wanted to see that was not happening, that I campaigned on, that my constituents voted me into office on, that was being resisted. So I feel like I don't want that taken away from me and this council as a whole. We are an elected body. So that was, I appreciate your recommendations. I think the compensation, we need to be solid on that, understand the contract, recruitment materials, that's important. But I really feel like as a council, we need to make this decision. We have a responsibility to make this decision, and it is part of our constitution that we make this decision. In terms of the pandemic, I hear I kind of get a different sense from different folks, the staff, vendors, people in our community. You know, either step back, let's wait and see what happens, step back, and this is not just with this decision, but with a lot of things, step back. But I think when you're in what is a surreal event, one that is going to be, our future is so dependent on how we pull out of this, that we lean into it. And one of the things we've done, and I'm proud that our staff has done, is we are catapulting forward. We were the first municipality to carry on our city business. We are getting into that. We're empowering all our people with technology, and we've got a good percentage of our staff working from home safely. So I feel like I want to lean into it. I want to make sure we're in the best position to take advantage of any opportunity that comes out of this really tragic event. So, again, your advice is, I really appreciate you being here and sharing with us. And your organization is a great one.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Bover.
Yes,
Any-
sir.
any
I feel that seeing that we have an in-house candidate, and Matt is pretty well qualified and knows where we're going and where we've been, and I feel that why spend $30,000 or $40,000 on hiring a firm to do it when we can go internally and hire Matt as our city manager. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Warner.
I also appreciate Ken's being here. It's not the first time through this process for some of us. So the issues don't look like they've changed over the years. You still want the best candidate. I agree. The only way to go is with a nationwide search firm. I just don't think that, you know, staff should get to hire their boss. That's not always the best policy. I think we have a lot of factors we need to consider, like you said, the current process of the budget, this pandemic, the possibility that, I mean, we know we're going to have a minimum of 2 council positions changed over, possibly 3. It's been my experience that sometimes your best candidates don't want to put themselves in the middle of that type of situation because you're looking at, you know, maybe giving up a steady job, moving your family sometimes clearly across the country and making some huge changes in your personal life, uprooting your children or whatever. And then a month or 2 down the road, you're faced with, you know, having just bought a new house and now you're out of a job. So there are, I know, really, really good, smart candidates out there who would take that into consideration, which also makes me wonder if we would get the absolute best candidate if those things were floating out there. I have no objection to fulfilling my responsibility. I hired the last city manager and was in the process of hiring a couple of others as part of citizens committees. So, and that's another thing, you know, when you start involving your citizens in the process, you stretch out the entire process. And in this pandemic, getting citizen input is something we're going to have to be more creative about. We can't just have a community meeting like we've done in the past and allow the citizens to meet the candidates and put their 2 cents worth in. So our staff's going to have to come up with some creative ways to get that citizen input. I would like to, excuse me, move forward in the process, decide on a firm, sit down with that firm and look at a timeline. But for me, the very first question that needs to be answered is our interim city manager interested in the job? Does he intend to apply for the position? And does this council want to consider that, and do we think he's qualified? Until we get that question answered, I'm with Mr. Bover in I don't want to hire a firm only to find out that we have an internal candidate that was wanting the job all along. So that would be my first question is, does Mr. Fuhrer have an interest in pursuing this as the next city manager? And have some council discussion on that before we take the next step. That's it for me, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am, and appreciate all the comments from everyone. Some very good comments, and like I said, I just want to move forward. We've been moving forward. Things are getting done, and I greatly appreciate it. So, Pam, if you want to, thank you, and.
Mayor, members of the council, if you have any questions for me, I've left some of my business cards. Y'all feel free to call us. We are resource people, and I'll guarantee you we will give you our opinion. And and if you need some, those types of things, we'll be glad to do that. Now, we will never provide a recommendation on any candidate.
Yeah.
Okay, and so please understand that. And if it pleases the council, I'm going to go back home.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And just one thing, I know we've heard a lot about the best candidate, but I don't know if any city ever know they got the best candidate, because there's a lot of good candidates out there. What I look for in a candidate, just someone that understands the needs of our community, or are willing to understand the needs of our community, one that's going to understand that the council is a policymakers, as well as just kind of adhering to the wants and the needs of the council based on our community, and some of the meetings that we've had with residents with reference to how we want to move our city forward. And but thank you, sir. We sure do appreciate that, and be safe.
Okay, next presenting is the Strategic Government Resource, and I'm going to switch to
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
did we ask the acting city manager if he was interested in that? I sure got cut off over here and I didn't hear him.
That was a question, but we're gonna, I guess we can address that right toward the end, and give him a chance to sit there and sweat it out and think on it. So,
And also at the end, Samantha's received some e-comments that she's going to read after the presenters present their proposals. So
thank you, ma'am.
just to let you know. So next we have Doug Thomas here from Strategic Government Resources. He's available. You should be able to see him on your monitor. Okay, and he's called into the joint conference call. So Doug, can you hear us? Okay.
Good morning. Yes. Good morning. This is Doug.
Hey, Doug, welcome.
Great. Thank you. I'm not sure. Am I on your screen? I'm about to do a presentation, but I don't show that I'm on your video is on. So I want to make sure that you can see what I'm about to refer to.
Yes, sir. We
Yes,
can see
they
you.
can see you.
Great, super, thank you. Well, first and foremost, thanks for shortlisting us as one of three of your consulting firms that are interested in talking with this morning to learn more about the search process, especially during these unique and challenging times we find ourselves in. I would first and foremost say I think Ken Parker, who's a friend and a colleague, did a great job in terms of setting the stage for you and the types of questions and issues that any council would want to have to address as they go through this process. What I've discussed with Tammy is having a very short PowerPoint presentation. I'll kind of talk through that, but you'll be able to see that, and I'll certainly provide that as part of the process so that you can continue your deliberations. So let me go ahead and load that, and just if someone can give me a heads up when it pops up so I know that it's there. Is that showing now?
Yep, we can see it.
Great. Okay, super. All right. Well, once again, I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and thanks for your flexibility. I've actually, ironically, got a variety of video interviews scheduled with some of other clients today, which prevented me from being on the road. So I truly appreciate your flexibility in allowing me to do this remotely as well. So let's talk a little bit about SGR. Many of you are familiar with SGR, and I'll talk a little bit about a seminar that I had done with you back about a year and a half back in December for strategic planning and governance workshops. But I want to just highlight the fact that we are a full-service local government consulting firm. And so I think that makes us slightly different than those firms that are solely involved predominantly in executive recruitment. So in addition to executive recruitment, which we're one of the leading firms across the national firms across the country, we're extensively involved in live training. We're training about 1,000 employees a month, either on-site or remotely. We do a lot of online training, obviously more so of that now. We've been pivoting and doing some additional work on that front in post-COVID-19 scenarios. Do a lot of leadership development. We have interim management placements, probably close to about between 30 to 40 folks at any given time that are in interim capacities across the country. Do a lot of assessments, similar to what I had done with your group, done some strategic planning and some consulting operations. And the bottom line I want to emphasize is that because we are fully integrated in local government operations, we have a sense of understanding the totality of the government functions as opposed to firms that may simply be involved in an executive recruitment type background. That gives us, I think, a better sense of understanding the issues and challenges that are facing local governments. Many of you, I think all but one of you, had a chance to meet with me when I did a session. You may recall what we did a governance and strategic visioning workshop back in December of 2018. We spent 2 days working our way through your challenges and issues and working as a team. As you can see the background, I'm not going to go through the effort, but in summary, about 35 years in local government operations in Maryland, Michigan, and here in Florida. I'm a good example of why I believe SGR is a good company. I hired them to do some executive recruitments for me about 5 years ago, and I was so impressed with the quality of the firm and the quality of the process that the principal of the firm and I kind of hit it off. His style and my style are very similar. That led to eventually him asking if I wanted to work for communities across the country as opposed to one particular community. And after about 2 to 3 months of a yes, no, and maybe, and talking to a lot of friends and colleagues, I ultimately decided that this could be a fun second chapter of my career. So I joined the firm on a full-time basis and retired from the city of Lakeland. And I gave Ron the commitment of a 2-year window. I said, if I don't like it, I'll get back into the game. Well, as I mentioned, that was almost 5 years ago. So it really has been a pleasure and opportunity for me to work with communities in a variety of different functions. So I'm probably the best commercial for SGR, that I not only felt so strongly about how well we do what we do, that I ended up leaving my position as an active city manager and joining it on a full-time basis, and really have been enjoying that opportunity since then. I want to just highlight the processes that we use that we think lead to a successful search, and these are 5 steps, and they're understanding what you're looking for and the needs and desires of the organization, the community. We'll talk a little bit about the marketing, talk a little bit about our vetting to make sure that you fully understand what the candidates are all about and their background, and vice versa. We want to make sure the candidates fully understand what's going on so we can try to eliminate their late withdrawals that may take place in the process, in the recruitment process. And then certainly we're in unique times. Our process has been smooth and seamless. It's user-friendly for both candidates and the clients, and we can talk a little bit more about what that looks and feels like in the current COVID-19 pandemic environment, which we find ourselves operating in. So it really starts off first and foremost with us understanding what's going on in your organization. As I say, I think I've got somewhat of a head start. I've known your previous manager, certainly know Matt as well. Matt, as you may recall, worked for the city of Lakeland, worked in our performance excellence and budget operation. So I've followed his career doing well. He's a very strong manager and a great municipal leader as well. So I already have somewhat of an understanding of your operation, but obviously that's been a little bit of time now, and things have changed and moved around. We would typically spend time with each of you. Normally, if we're in a travel mode, do that from the face-to-face environment. If not, we've been certainly doing that remotely with video interview type processes. But we'd want to meet with all of you as elected officials. We would want to meet with your senior staff and meet with various community stakeholders so we can understand the perspectives, because whoever's in this position is going to navigate in 3 different environments. One is clearly clicking with you as a board. You're the policy-making board, and there's a unique relationship between the city manager and the elected officials. But similarly, every organization has a culture, and that culture is typically defined by the leadership and the folks that are within your organization. So we spend some time talking with all of the leaders about what's going on and their perceptions and issues and challenges and the dynamics of the organization. And the third element that we try to spend time with as well is your community stakeholders and your leadership. And these could be intergovernmental partners, it could be Chamber of Commerce, it could be school systems, it could be any number of folks, it could be HOA associations, whatever that looks and feels like. And basically what we're trying to get is those three circles will eventually overlap, and we're trying to find candidates that fit in the middle of all three of those circles. And so we'll spend a lot of time working with you and working with your staff and working with community stakeholders, understanding what's going on as we start to develop the profile that Ken spoke of earlier. Now, the profile is really a piece of it. That's how we're going to market your organization. But basically, our approach is not only are we going to take the information we gather for you on demographics and information about the organization and the budget and the dynamics and things of that nature, we'll sprinkle information in about other challenges that I'm learning about as I'm sitting down and working with each of you and your team. I think we do an excellent job in this. Most of SGR's folks come from local government. The folks that work with me are typically in the profile development are special. They're PIOs, public information or communication directors, so they kind of understand your nature and culture, and we'll work to actually market your position, because many of the folks that will apply to this position may never have been in Florida, or they may have never been in your community, although we will certainly see a number of Florida managers that will certainly apply for this position as well. I want to talk a little bit about social media marketing. We're one of the only firms that we're aware of that has a full-time social media marketer on board. As you can see from the slide that I've got before you, social media marketing has become an extensive outreach, because a good portion of candidates that will ultimately apply for this position consider themselves as passive candidates. These are not folks that are out looking for the position. And so they're not going to be looking for your trade associations and the municipal league postings and ICMA postings. They may or may not come across it. As you can see, 75% of those people that are employed don't consider themselves active candidates. They're passive. So if you don't reach out and talk to them, you're missing a considerable amount of potential prospects that could be a great fit. And so this just give you a snapshot of some of the different formats. They're tailored. All our ads are tailored based upon the format of the program that's being used, and we also highlight the time when the research has indicated where passive candidates are often on these sites. So this is an extensive outreach that we're involved with. You've seen an example of the brochure. We're going to talk about the community to present the COCO in the best possible light, what life looks and feels like there. We'll talk about your organization and the governance of the structure, how you're set up, the types of service you provide, the number of council members, when elections are occurring. All those things are important elements for candidates to understand. I will identify from my previous discussions with you and the staff and your citizen stakeholders the challenges and opportunities. What are the things that the next manager will likely be facing in the next 3 to 5 years if they're appointed? So those will vary from community to community, but they'll certainly be a reflection of what's going on in your particular area and the particular challenges that you think are going to be real out there. Then as part of those conversations, we're going to identify what you think are the attributes in the ideal candidate in terms of their background, their style, their experience, mannerisms, communication, things of that nature. So we'll identify that, because we want candidates to use that as a lens to understand how they may or may not fit into this position. Then obviously every position will have education requirements and experiential requirements. We'll have information about compensation and benefits, and then certainly how you can go ahead and apply. We identify a lot of different links, both in terms of the city and the general area, any strategic planning documents you got, budgets, things of that nature. Our goal is to try to let candidates understand what's going on in the organization and provide that information as easy as possible for them. Now, when I mentioned about social media and marketing, one of the important things is the fact that these passive candidates that I spoke of earlier, this particular chart demonstrates that although we will recommend and work with you to post the position in the various state and national associations, ICMA, FCCMA, things of that nature, as you can see from this chart, you're only going to get a handful of those candidates that will typically apply. 10% or so come from other sources, 10% from state trades, and 15% from the national trades. That would be the ICMAs of the world, if you will. What we have traditionally found is that 65% of the candidates, almost 2/3 of our candidates that council select as semifinalists, have heard about the positions through something we have done directly. So this gets back to that importance of social media. So in this case, 2/3 of the candidates that typically are selected may not have otherwise applied for the position if you had not used a firm that does an extensive outreach in terms of social media and aggressive marketing and contacts from other recruiters that people had know across the business. One of the things, as a former city manager, the last thing you want to do is catch your elected board off guard. So our process is pretty extensive in vetting individuals. So as candidates, from the time they come into our process to the time I'm coordinating with other recruiters, if they've been involved in other searches, my recruitment coordinator and I are cross-checking things to make sure we haven't missed anything. When they apply, they answer a very short, brief questionnaire to allow us to understand some insights that they may not have identified as part of their application. We utilize both online recorded interviews, and then lately, as the COVID-19 environment has unfolded, certainly two-way interview processes as we've gone forward. And then at the end of the process, as we get into finalists that are ultimately selected for your final consideration, we get into very extensive online research of all the positions and all the communities and where the individuals may have worked in the past, including criminal history, credit, media, all those sorts of things as well. Some other options we provide are psychometric disc assessments to provide personality assessments perspectives. As I mentioned, we'll do all the background work. We typically, on your finalists, we'll work with you as we go through an interview process to develop a pretty extensive, help you with questionnaires and formatting and the logistics of that. We also provide typically a response where candidates are asked, the finalists are asked to develop what we call a first-year game plan and how they would orient themselves to the position and the steps they'll take in their first 30, 60, 90, 180 days in the balance of the year. And that'll provide some additional normative insights in terms of their philosophies and efforts. As I mentioned, recognizing that I know your community well, I've certainly been active here in the state of Florida. I've been on the board of directors and pretty regular speaker at state conferences and events, not only here but in other parts of the country. We're still very much embedded in local government operations. So candidates have a pretty high level of comfort with SGR. They know that we know what we're doing and we understand the communities we're working for, and we can provide them insights so they can fully understand what they're considering. And as I mentioned, we try to keep our candidates fully up to date throughout the process. So once they're in our effort and you're part of our search process, every Friday we send a clipping service, whether it's good news, bad news, or otherwise, to all the candidates about when you've been in the news, just to keep them in touch, because we don't want them to get to the deeper end of the process and say, gee, I wish I would have known about this issue or that issue or what's going on, and we don't want them to be withdrawing after you've invested time and effort, especially as you get them towards the finalist effort. So we do a lot of keeping in touch with those candidates. And our process is pretty straightforward. We have a not-to-exceed billing process. It's broken down into a professional fee and expenses. And then at the end of this effort, we always survey both you and our finalists to get a sense of what worked, what didn't work, any insights, and we're constantly changing our process and tweaking it to make it work for all parties as well. So in the essence, what I guess I can tell you is that you've got three recruiting firms. They're all very qualified firms. I want to try to distinguish why I believe SGR is the best of those three. We, as I mentioned earlier, we're a full-service firm. Our CEO, Ron Holofield, is typically speaking at a state or national conference. This is pre-COVID-19, almost every 3 weeks, although his active schedule has still been pretty involved in terms of speaking to groups through video conferencing. I speak typically about once a month at different state or national groups or local organizations about things involving local government practices and best management practices. Our base is very strong with regards to subscribers to what we call our 10 and 10 update on leadership and innovation. It goes out to over 50,000 people every Tuesday morning. It will feature information about the position and provide information about how they can apply and things of that nature. We'll also send it out, information to about 4,000 senior local government officials. And then we operate one of the largest job boards in the country that certainly helps out in terms of additional outreach. So our goal here is not to say we're going to go out and get you candidates. Our approach is to find the ones that click, and we stand behind that with a service guarantee as well. And then lastly, just want to highlight that we have the National Research Center, which we engaged a little while back to do a survey of us relative to 14 national and regional public management search firms. And I won't go through these in detail, but you can see that SGR received the highest overall rating and the highest rating for each specific measure in terms of understanding management, being leading-edge thinkers, providing innovative services solutions, high quality and thorough vetting of our background, things of that nature. So with that, that's kind of a quick overview. I appreciate the opportunity to present, and I'll stop sharing the screen, and we can go into any Q&A that you may have from there.
Thank you, sir. Comments? Any council members have any questions or?
Did you have any questions for that? No? Okay.
Councilman Bover, any questions or?
No questions, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Doug, we appreciate it.
Great. Okay, we appreciate it as well, and we're here for any follow-up questions that may take place. I know this is obviously the most important, if not the most important, certainly one of the most important decisions you make as a council, as Ken also said as well. So we're here to help you through that process, and wish you the best of success, and wish everyone to stay safe as we continue to work through this challenging environment.
Yes, sir. We appreciate it, and you stay safe as well.
Thank you so much. You take care.
Thank you.
Sorry. I'm trying to connect with the next presenter by text. Okay. Next presenting is Colin Bainziger, who's available through another platform. So we're working on getting that set up. What Mr. Bainziger has provided for you is sorry, we're getting connected. A copy of his presentation. He's not going to actually show, I don't believe, the PowerPoint on the camera. Instead, he's going to be on the camera speaking to you.
Okay.
He's going to refer to his presentation, which I provided y'all a copy of. Also, he provided a memo, which I provided to y'all as part of the record, a memo subject recruiting during a pandemic. He may refer to that as well. And in the binder, his proposal was the first tab of the binder. He provided two documents. One was the actual proposal. The second one was an appendix of different recruitment materials and examples of his products of his firm. So I'll turn it over to Colin now. Colin, can you hear us okay?
Colin, can you hear us?
Hello?
Yes, can you hear us?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Colin, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Took me a minute to get on, and my apologies. So I was kind of watching Doug, but not listening. So all of a sudden I noticed he was off, and I'm trying to, oh my goodness. Anyway, my apologies. Shall I get started?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Well, my name is Colin Bainziger. I am the owner and principal of Colin Bainziger and Associates. My firm has been doing business as a national recruiting firm since 1997. I want to say initially that it's a pleasure to be here, sort of, I mean remotely, and to be talking to you. Cocoa is a great city, and it's one that we really want to do the city manager search for. It's nice to be one of the three finalists, and we know we will do a great job for you. Together, you and us working together, we'll make this happen. By way of introduction, we are a nationally recognized firm. I said that. All we do is executive search, and that's important because that's our focus. Nothing else gets in the way. There's no conflicts or anything. All we do is executive search. I started this business in 1997, started out from scratch,
I'd done recruiting, but I'd done it as a manager, not as a recruiter. And so it took a little while to get started. I mean, to get a number of clients. But I'd say about 2003, we were doing pretty well. My goal when I started was to dominate Florida. I didn't have any desire to be a national firm at the time. And as I went forward, I found that that was probably not a good business strategy because things can happen in one state. If you're wedded to one state, you can have some issues. We also found that there was a demand for our services. When we started, we thought that if we gave a quality product, i.e. found the right people, if we had good communications with our clients, if we worked with integrity, and we finished everything on time, that we would be successful at a reasonable price. And so that's what we've done. And when I started, as I said, in 1997, I had no clients. I'd never been a search firm, worked in a search firm. Today, 23 years later, we have, well, I'd say, done over 200 city manager searches. We've done approximately 2/3 of the city manager searches in the state of Florida since we started. And that's, by the way, more than twice as many as all of our other competitors combined. Now, I'm going to move the screen here out of the way. I've got your screen up and my screen up, and it's a little distracting, so I'm just going to hide your screen so I can't see what's going on in the meeting at the moment. But fast forward, as I said, we've done over 200 city manager searches, probably 350 searches total, and we worked in 32 states. And as I said, we dominate Florida. We have done, as I said, more than twice as many searches as all the other firms combined since about 2005. You know, in your own county, Brevard County, we found Scott Larice, who's in Titusville, Courtney Barker in Satellite Beach, Scott Morgan in West Melbourne, Jim McKnight in Cocoa Beach. They're all active city managers right at the moment. Previously, we found Howard Tipton for Brevard County, Lee Feldman in Palm Bay, David Green over in Cape Canaveral, and Mike McNeese in Melbourne. So, you know, we've got quite a track record in your county, and we think a very successful one, and that's the kind of success we want to bring to you. What we offer is a problem-free search. We've done a lot of searches, quite frankly, and we've learned from the mistakes of our competitors as well as ourselves. We've made a few, not as many as not as many, not too many, but not more than we'd like, of course, over the course of a lifetime. And, you know, at 23 years, you're going to make a mistake now and then. But we've gotten to the point where our search is problem-free. We're going to do that by listening to you. It's very important that we get the right person fit in your community with your corporate or governmental culture. And we do that by a lot of in-depth listening and research on Cocoa Beach. Excuse me, Cocoa. It's a problem of having had a client that has cocoa in it already. We will sit down, spend time with each of you. Fortunately, we know the community. We're just up the road in Daytona Beach. As I said, we worked extensively in Cocoa. And so, but we do need to get to know your problems, your issues. You need to know what makes it a great place to live, work, and play from your point of view and to be the city manager. We need to know what's the ideal candidate look like to you. And if you'd like to involve a citizens panel, citizens discussions, we can certainly do that. We can do a community survey that will give us input on the internet through like SurveyMonkey, that type of an engine that creates a survey. We will guarantee our price. That's part of what I said earlier when I said with integrity. We're going to give you a timeline and we're going to give you a price, and we will meet that timeline. We've never missed a project milestone. We've never asked for more money in a search, no matter what the circumstances were. We just feel that we're the experts, and there shouldn't be unforeseen circumstances if we're the experts. And so we've never asked for more. Once or twice, I suspect I've been in a situation where I could have and probably should have, but I didn't. What we offer as well is a very, very good background checks. In fact, the candidates will tell us that they're the best in the business. If you look at the proposal we submitted, one of our appendices is an article that Dale Martin wrote in the Fernandina Beach newspaper. It was kind of a weekly column he does. In that particular column, he talked about our background checks process. And he talked about the fact that we were the best he'd ever been through, and we're routinely told that. We also are told routinely by candidates we do the best job of communicating with them. It's important, obviously, that we communicate with you. It's a key. But it's also key that we keep the candidates in the loop so that we know that they'll be available when they come in to interview, and also that they fully understand the opportunity so that when they come in, they're ready and they're willing and they're excited about this opportunity. The other thing that's important is to really, as I said, keep to the timeline, and then now, let me just back off 1 second. If you want to change the timeline at any time, we're willing to do that. We'll work with you on that. But from our point of view, once we start a timeline, once we agree to a schedule, then that's locked in solid, and we won't miss it. We won't miss a date. As I said, we never have. The last thing I guess I'd like to say is that in terms of offering a problem-free search, you know what you're going to get. We're going to give it to you. We have a great project team that's on page, 6 of the brochure. All of our people have been city managers except for Ms. Klein. She runs our backroom operation. But we have probably a cumulative experience in that project team of 90 years in local government of one sort or another. Rick and Steve have both been city managers as well as utility directors and such. And I've been a city manager. I've also served on a board of a master homeowners association of 22,000 people. It's obviously not the same as being on a board with the city, but in terms of the manager board relationship, I'm familiar with it. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. This is a job we really want. I don't want to take an awful lot more of your time, but our price is guaranteed, as I said, and we'd like to be your consultant. We'd like to bring the same level of expertise and talent to your community. We will find you the right people. And by that I mean people. I say people because we're not going to bring just one candidate that's going to be great. We're going to bring you 5. The only place you're going to have trouble in this search is choosing between those 5. Otherwise, it will be problem-free. And the last thing I'd like to promise is that we will give you 125%, not the mere 110% that most consulting firms promise, but 125%. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from the council?
No.
Councilman Bover, any questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you there, Colin. We appreciate it.
Okay, well, that's it, huh?
Thank you, sir. No questions. No one has any questions.
Thank you, Colin.
Well, thank you, sir.
Well, as I said, I'll just close by saying we'd love to work with you, and together we will get you a great city manager, just as we have for a number of other communities in Brevard County.
Thank you, sir, and be safe.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Okay, so now that concludes our webinar presenters. The last firm to present is, the representative is here in person, Donna Higginbotham. She represents the Mercer Group of Florida, and she's here in the council chambers, so I'll invite her up next.
Welcome.
Good morning, Honorable Mayor Williams, council
Morning.
members.
Morning,
It's a
Deb.
pleasure to be here today. I feel like I'm back home because Melbourne was our home for many years, and my husband was the town manager of Melbourne Beach. We loved it here. And so it's a pleasure to be back here to visit with you. I'll tell you a little bit about our firm. Jim Mercer started the firm in 1990. Through that, he grew with more consultants. At that time, my husband was a city manager. In 1984, he was brought to Florida with the city of Gainesville. And from there, he served 5 cities in the state of Florida. So I have the perspective of hearing the backstories over dinner of being a city manager. And I also have the experience of having my own career of nearly 30 years of recruiting and training in a different field. So when my husband decided to retire in 2010, he joined forces with Mr. Jim Mercer. And he was going to work in the state of Florida primarily. However, he did have assignments in other states, and typically Billings, Montana, or someplace in Idaho would call in January or February. I think they got a kick out of asking consultants to come from Florida to the northern regions, but he always went. His motto, as is in this area at Cape Canaveral, failure is not an option. We do whatever it takes as well. In 2017, I retired from my career for the 3rd time, and it stuck, and I joined my husband full-time. From 2010 to 2017, I had been working with him part-time, and in 2017, we became a full-time team for recruiting. Shortly thereafter, we discovered that my husband was ill, and a year ago yesterday, he passed away. But he always wanted me to continue his work. He said, you know, Donna, you read the tea leaves a little bit better than I do, and I count so much on you that if I don't make it through this challenge that we're going through, I want you to continue my work. And I have. 1 month after his passing, I was standing at a podium in a city, making a presentation just as today. And I have continued doing searches. Currently, I have 3 searches going, but we are near the end of those searches, so my time can be devoted 100%, 125, 150% to this particular search. We have a 7-step process that is outlined in page 7 of the proposal that I submitted. We also have a 1-year guarantee if for any reason your city manager should not be employed by the city of Cocoa within that 1-year time period, we will redo the search for you at no additional fee. Only expenses, which would be our advertising expenses. We also have social media, and we ask every applicant, where did you hear about our search? And they're hearing it from Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, ICMA, FCCMA, Florida League of Cities. It's a variety of places, but the majority are coming from our social media outreach as well. We do have a flat fee. You will have no additional fees for the Mercer Group Florida. There will be expenses of bringing the candidates in, however many that you choose. But there is no additional fee to the Mercer Group. We will meet with each one of you individually to find out your needs. I think this is a great time to be starting a search because so many things that we do can be done electronically and over the phone. We can Zoom, we can FaceTime, whatever media you would like to do if you would like to be face-to-face during these challenging days. I spend no less than an hour on the phone with each applicant that meets your minimum qualifications, and it's likely to take an hour and a half to 2 hours. You will receive a thumb drive of every candidate and every piece of information that I have on that candidate. We do extensive background searches as well. When we present our recommendations of semifinalists, we will present 5 to 10 that we have vetted, that we feel will be the best fit for your city. And from there, you can narrow it down to those that you wish to bring to the city of Cocoa for those face-to-face interviews. As I said, we have a guarantee. If for any reason within the first year it is not a good fit for you, we'll do the search over again because failure is not an option. At this time, I will open it up for questions if any of you have any questions for me.
Councilwoman Cox.
Yeah, was your, I think your proposal, you also addressed the position that we will be looking for in the chief of police?
Yes.
So, 'cause it seems to me the time you spend, getting to know us would be very useful if we were to have,
Absolutely.
if we choose a professional service for that job as well. Okay.
And our way of doing business is should you employ us, then we will give a discount for additional searches that we would do.
And I just wanted to add, all of the firms, I let them know that the police chief was retiring at the end of the year, and they gave additional pricing on that as well. But for this meeting, I didn't include that as far as the information I gave y'all, so.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Any other comments, anyone? Councilman Bover, any comments?
I'm sorry, thank you.
Okay. Councilwoman Warner?
No, sir.
Councilman Deputy Mayor Goins? Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for your time. I would love to do this search for you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Have a great day.
You too, thanks.
And also, I wanted to highlight a couple things I included in the agenda item for each of y'all. As you can see, the proposal documents are rather lengthy to some degree, so I try to give y'all bullets as far as references, page numbers, reference to their fees that were proposed. And I wanted to also say, in addition, each firm has given a warranty or a guarantee as well, and I highlighted that in the agenda item, which, for example, Colin Bainzinger, his was on page 33. His was a 1-year warranty as well, which was the only cost to the city would be a reimbursement of expenses only. And there was other details included as well in his warranty. Mercer Group, that one was on page 13 of her proposal as well with other details. And SGR also included a warranty for 18 months. And that one was the only cost of the city as well would be the reimbursement of expenses. So, and the expenses would be the advertising or it could be, I think with SGR, the expenses could also be the the background check fees, I believe, so. So, Samantha also received some e-comments, from the citizens, I believe, so if you'd like, we could have her read those comments as part of the meeting.
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
Okay, and I believe some of these, council, you may have already received in an email as well, but I'll read them into the minutes too. So the first one I received was from Emma Kirkpatrick, the president of the Historic Cocoa Village Main Street. She says, the Historic Cocoa Village Main Street has a strong vested interest in the selection of a new city manager for the city of Cocoa. As an official representative through membership and mandate and contract with the city for the commercial and residential population, we propose that council use this opportunity in the most transparent and broad-reaching manner, as is consistent with the city's policy of hiring professional services to coordinate major visioning and development processes. We support the hiring of a professional search company to aid in the candidate selection process. Given the unique diversity of our city, we understand the need for multiple needs and interests to be well represented. This can be provided during the selection process by soliciting constituency input and participation as part of screening. While selection lies with the council, community familiarity with and support of the candidates would lay the groundwork for smooth transition and future successful interactions and relationships. We strongly believe that the social and economic vibrancy of the village is paramount to the future of the city. We will gladly work with council in any way we can to help with this critical and pivotal decision. And then I had two more. The first one here is from one of our citizens, Connie Harvey. She says, "Dear Mayor and council members, I am writing today to strongly advocate for engaging a professional selection firm to recruit a new city manager and ensuring public involvement throughout the process. A professional selection firm will be instrumental in guiding the process to help ensure that the city of Cocoa has the opportunity to select from a wide range of highly qualified candidates with demonstrated success and to help ensure that a transparent selection and evaluation criteria is employed that is above reproach. Public input at multiple points throughout the process that is representative of a variety of constituent groups and stakeholders in the village and throughout the city boundaries, including residents, merchants, restaurateurs, professionals, community coalitions and alliances, and nonprofits is critical. Strong working relationships between professional leadership of the city and key constituent groups are critical to our success. While it is understood that the city council will cast the final vote of the new administrator, I urge you to ensure that these groups have a voice. This is likely the most important decision you will make now more than ever. There is so much potential for our community, and the executive hired for this position will, without a doubt, be instrumental in whether our city continues to move forward or not. Let's move forward. Thank you for your service to our community. Kind regards, Connie Harvey." And this one is from Ed Green, 104 Riverside Drive. I urge the council to focus today's deliberations on the thoughts provided by Mr. Ken Parker of the FCCMA. He poses key questions for consideration before embarking on a manager search and 3 candidate search options. My takeaways and conclusions. Is this the time to initiate a search? The election, which could replace the majority of council, suggests not. Our best candidates may not apply due to the uncertainty the election poses, and the new council will be the one to work with the new manager. Also, we are dealing with a pandemic and the budget season. We should avoid additional instability at this key time. We can all be confident in the corporate knowledge, stability, and leadership of interim manager Fuhrer that interim manager Fuhrer provides. Mr. Parker's timeline suggests a process of over 6 months. We should wait. We must have citizen involvement in this process, and the council must take time to incorporate that involvement. Selecting our next manager will be one of the largest determinants of Cocoa's ongoing success or failure. It should be the major focus of our near-term efforts, should not be rushed, and should be aided by skilled professionals. But it is premature to hire those professionals before the election. Please focus on Mr. Parker's letter and defer selection of a search firm. His letter was in response to a request from the city. As such, it would be irresponsible not to give it due and complete consideration. And I've received, I just want to double check, I haven't gotten any new ones because I just received a bunch of emails. Okay, nope, I think that's it.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Hey.
So
Very interesting.
with that, also I wanted to review the requested action on the agenda item. It was rather lengthy, but my goal was to not have to come back multiple times for a budget amendment and that sort of thing. So the requested action was to review the options related to the city manager recruitment process and provide consensus of an option. If a decision is made to use executive search firm, requesting action of firm selection and authorize staff to begin steps to coordinate the search with the selected firm and to work with the city attorney to negotiate contract terms for the mayor to sign. It would be, we need to make sure that we have a contract in place, one to protect the city for the warranty, and other things that we would put into the agreement. I am also requesting approval of budget resolution number 2020-139, amending the fiscal year 2020 budget and the attached budget adjustment form number 20058T, transferring budget to the city manager's operating account from general fund contingency. And what the budget amendment request was to also cover potential travel expenses for any final candidates, which is estimated depending on where that candidate, where they're coming from. So it could vary, at that time. And that would be further in the process, obviously. But I wanted to make sure the budget was there so we wouldn't have to come back, for different requests. So,
Thank you, ma'am.
okay.
And I know I appreciate all the few emails that came in, but just like these individuals, there were others that had stated their opinions that well with reference to what they'd like to see in the city manager. So, is there?
I think probably needed to address the elephant in the room, which is the question that Councilwoman Warner posed to our interim city manager.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something we can handle first and then get into the discussion.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Mr. Matthew.
Yeah, I think I just actually received, or I was copied on an email from a member of the public, sent to you all, to the city council account from Carrie Sheely. If you don't mind, I can read that in first.
Okay.
Okay.
It starts out from David Prather, 29 Riverside Drive, Unit 401. Says, thanks for yet another task of being on City Commission. You are appreciated, even though it may not seem that way at times. I'll use bullets to be brief. Hire a search firm or MAT. Make sure they include meaningful community input in both selection and hiring criteria. Be sure they seek an individual with experience in cities of similar demographic history. Must have high ratings for supporting small, non-chain businesses. Should have water experience, lakes, riverfront, or significantly green space and parks experience. A track record of 3 years experience, including community economic growth, and ability and desire to live in the city of Cocoa within 12 months of starting the position. Our community can help make this happen. Thanks for your time and consideration of this input.
And I believe our charter says, 6 months, right?
I think so.
Or 60 days.
Is it
The
60 days?
I thought it switched to 6 months. I thought it was, okay.
Yeah, I thought we'd made some changes because of what was, well, maybe not. I was going to say the real estate market.
It was
Oh,
that,
that's
and then the time frame that gave them time to sell their homes or whatever, if they
Yeah.
had homes or
Yeah,
made
60
some
days
decisions.
is not a lot of time to,
Yeah.
I'm sure we can work with them though once we you have a candidate.
It could be part of the agreement, part of the final contract.
Okay. Okay, Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, so with that, I just want to make the statement with the timing of everything, somewhat unexpected, the onset of a public health emergency, really just trying to get my feet under myself and get the organization in a place where we could respond to the COVID-19 virus appropriately, as well as myself determine what my intent would be, and that's, you know, through looking into these kind of matters. It's a recommendation from ICMA that if you do have an interim manager from within the organization, they need to clearly state what their intent is out of fairness for the entire process. And so with that, you know, I'm prepared to do that today, and I think you know, if I can reference the interim manager employment agreement under section 1, it does state, however, employee and employer acknowledge and agree that employee will be considered along with any other candidates for the permanent city manager position at such time the city council determines in its sole discretion it is the city's best interest to appoint a qualified person to serve as its permanent city manager. So through that language, and just so you can get a clear response from myself, I would be interested in pursuing the opportunity if it were offered, and I will, you know, in accordance with the interim city manager's contract, just make the statement that I will continue to conduct the duties from that position free from any interference with a process that may occur or influence outside of the way I would typically conduct myself. So.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have Deputy Mayor Goins, and then, oh, okay. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Cost.
Oh.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at.
No,
it.
I
And
just
then
wanted to say,
Councilwoman
I
Warner.
just wanted to express my appreciation for Matt and acknowledge what a sharp guy you are, and refer back to my earlier comments, just that it wasn't, you know, the change that we're making was not based on a personality or some fault, but it was just a shift I want to see take place. That may very well happen under Matt, but we haven't had an opportunity to work together independently. So I'm not at this point able to make that decision that I would put him in position permanently. So I would vote to go with an executive search firm.
Councilwoman Warner.
I hesitate to spend $20,000 to $30,000, and as Mr. Parker said, put a lot of people through the process of a search, because, you know, putting together your resumes and all of that stuff, if you are looking for a job, is, you know, definitely not an exercise you want to do in futility. So it is my suggestion that, and I have, with the presentations, I do have my preferences and I've ranked my choices for the search firm. And I have no problem in choosing one of these three search firms if we are to move forward. However, I think we, as individual council members, before I say, yes, let's go with a nationwide search, I want us to sit down individually with Matt and have an opportunity to see what his vision is for COCO. I would like to get that out of the way before I move forward with the search. I'd like an opportunity to sit down with Matt, see what his plans are, where he thinks the city should be going, one-on-one interviews with him, and then address whether or not we move forward with Matt or go with a search firm at the next regular council meeting. That's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you, Mel. Councilman Bover.
Yes, sir, thank you. Yeah, I'm in favor of Matt Potley being appointed to the city manager's job. I can't see spending $40,000 when we have an in-house candidate that knows the background of the city and knows the future of the city, what we want from him. And he knows the employees very well. He works well with the department heads, and I think he would be a great candidate for the city manager's position. And I would like to hold off on appointing a search firm until we finish this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Deputy Mayor.
I know it was two things that in my mind, when we got to this point of making this decision or making a decision on the process, I said either Matt is going to be the city manager, or whoever we choose to be the city manager has to bring along Matt with him. That was the two things in my mind that I had my feet in concrete on. I asked Matt, I think maybe once, about the decision. I didn't get rid of a clear answer at that time, but it was I think it was during a lot of issues with the pandemic and a lot of things was going on at the time as well. I'm not opposing going with the search firm, but I also would like to have a detailed conversation with Matt about what he just stated, because he sparked my interest just by him saying that. But I'm not against going with a search firm, but I would love to have that conversation. I know we have some great candidates also that I believe that we have locally as well. I initially thought it was going to be 40, 50, 60,000. My mind changed once I seen the numbers about using a search firm, because now that the numbers are not, I don't think we would get crucified by a community for $20,000, $24,000, whatever the case may be. But I'm not opposed to going with a search firm, so I say that. So and that's what the recommendation also for several emails that I received last night, all of this morning, phone calls and texts. So I'm also listen to the community as well, not just myself. So this is going to be a tough decision any way we go. But regardless of what happens, whoever we hire, if we hire Matt or not, if it's someone else opposite of him, I want to make sure that's a stipulation where he still would be the assistant city manager regardless. So that's my take.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Warner.
Yeah, I had had a conversation with Matt back in February about this very issue, and at that time, he expressed to me that he was not interested in the permanent position, which is, and his comments today were new to me, which is why I would like an opportunity to sit down and speak with him before we choose a search firm. It's because our last conversation, which was actually at the Cocoa High breakfast back in February, he indicated that at that time he was not planning to seek the job permanently. So I'm just not comfortable making any other steps until I have an opportunity to have a conversation with Matt about this change and what brought about this change and where he thinks he can go. But so I think Councilman Deputy Mayor Goins and I are kind of on the same page. We both feel like we need to have a conversation before we can make any further decisions.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilwoman Coss.
Just a quick question. All right, you must have had the conversation then, and you are willing to live in Cocoa?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. I too have had a conversation with Matt, and I know he's undecided, and I guess he's had some second thoughts, and I just know there's some very important questions that I'm going to have to ask of him, because I've spoke to a lot of residents with reference to, what they'd like to see in a city manager within our city, and not just residents, but I spoke to business owners, some of our stakeholders, and so forth and so on. I've talked to quite a few individuals, so and got some real firm comments on with reference to what they'd like to see. I've looked at Matt's resume. He gave us a resume, and I know there's not a whole lot of experience there, but I know that he do have some experience, and I know that he's been doing a pretty excellent job as an intern, man, even as a assistant city manager in the past since I've been elected to office. So I would like the opportunity as well to sit down and talk to him as well, and talk a little bit more into details, addressing and throwing some of those concerns out there that some of the residents had with reference to us moving forward with the city manager, as well as another tough decision when it comes to a police chief and what they're looking for in a police chief. That's going to be another discussion that I'd like to have with the city manager as well moving forward. And I can tell you the biggest thing I've heard is we don't want this same old that we've had every year, year in and year out. But I would like to, if we can pick a firm, if we can pick this out on a firm here today, but at the same time, let's sit down and have those discussions with Matt and then our interim city manager, and then go from there. And then once we've determined what will be, then we can come back and we have the firm already selected, and then we can just go ahead and move forward instead of, if it goes one way or the other. And then we can give the city attorney directions to start entering a negotiation with that firm if that be the case.
That works for me.
So,
And-
is that
Councilwoman Cos has the light.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Cos?
And I would agree with that. I don't want to be slow-rolled, though, so I'm hoping that we can have those conversations in the next week and address this at the next council meeting so that we can begin our timeline. Is that possible?
Would you like, on this agenda item, would you like to, and maybe Anthony can help guide us on this, but would you like us to table the vote on it as far as the selection of the firm, or?
I think we can select the
I think
firm.
we- Yeah, I
Can
think
we
we're
can
ready
we
to
select without having a contract? That's the
We could
that's the
select,
Anthony
and then if we
question.
determine that Matt, that we're going
If we
to
decide
look
to
at other candidates,
forward
then.
with the
Then we can,
firm?
then we can go ahead and give Anthony, direction and go ahead and start negotiating with them. But I mean, we could just select one for now, so we're not,
Okay, so, but the selection would be
Contingent on what-
contingent on if Matt.
what happened with Matt, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, well, I guess the question is for Anthony: if we vote on a firm, can we vote on it without having a contract? Because wouldn't that potentially say that they have the contract?
The motion, I would
I'm just
assume
asking. I don't know.
would be- Yeah, go ahead. Randy.
Well, what you can do is just provide, you can select the top-ranked firm in the council's discretion, and then direct that a contract at least be negotiated and prepared, and the contract could be placed on a subsequent city council agenda for approval.
Okay.
That's one way to handle it. I don't think it would be complicated to do a contract. My firm is actually, for the record, has represented cities that hired 2 out of the 3 cities. So we've done contracts with 2 out of the 3 proposers.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I'll make a motion
Yeah,
to select the firm Mercer Group.
I'll second that motion.
We got a motion from Deputy Mayor Goins, a second from Councilwoman Cost. Should we,
We should have discussion then. after
yeah,
Second.
and from Councilwoman Cost, and we're gonna have discussions at this time. Councilman Bover, do you have any comments, reference to what's been said?
Thank you. No,
Okay.
sir.
Councilwoman Warner?
Yeah, I just want to say that I feel we were very fortunate to have 3 good firms to choose from. And SGR and Doug Thomas, we do have a previous relationship with. They've done good work for us in the past. But like Deputy Mayor Goins and Councilwoman Koss, my preference was for the Mercer Group for several reasons. not the least being the reasonable nature of their fees, but also I think we're going to get more personal service, I guess is the way to put it, more of a one-on-one relationship, which is kind of what I'm looking for. We may be a city of 20,000, but we're still a small town, and I get the feeling that Mrs. Higginbotham recognizes that and will do an excellent job for us.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilwoman Cos.
And I was just going to say that certainly that the price was attractive, but just as much so was the process and I called references, and Donna had great references. And just as you mentioned, the personal service, that was the emphasis, and more so than the other references I called from the other firms. That those, because a part of this hiring process, and as I understand it, may be one of the most crucial parts, is to be able to ask those uncomfortable questions to really get after what we want and why we're in this process. And I just feel confident that she would be the one to do that.
Thank you, ma'am. And I'd like to thank all three groups for submitting their proposals. We really do appreciate your comments and your statements and your presentation. That being said, we got a motion from Deputy Mayor Goins, a second from Councilwoman Cos. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
It passes unanimously for the Mercer Group. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so so we'll schedule or Matt will work with y'all to schedule each of y'all's individual meetings. And the selection of the firm, the agreement, we'll start working on with her. She did include a draft agreement, Anthony, in her proposal, so we can work with that to get
So that could be ready for the next council meeting if that's the direction we end up going?
Yeah, so the
Okay.
meeting is a week from tomorrow. So did y'all want to do that at that meeting? The agenda's not published yet, okay. So as far as the other part of this agenda was a budget resolution. If you like, since her fee was lower than the other firms, we can amend this form and have the budget transferred to be exactly what, the request can be exactly what the fee will be. And then we'll also include the transfer for the expenses related to final candidate travel as well.
Okay, and have that on the next agenda as well?
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
so this, just to be clear, the motion that you made was to select the firm. The other parts of this motion, of the requested action, were not voted on because we'll bring that back to the next meeting.
Yes. And Nancy, and I guess Anthony would do some negotiating, I guess, possibly, and so we'll be ready, set to go in case, we decide to go the other way. And then the next motion you need is on the budget,
No, that's what she just
No,
addressed.
we can bring it to the
You don't
next
want-
meeting on Wednesday with the agreement and the budget resolution, because the budget amendment
Yeah, I
form
got you.
that was
Yeah.
attached to this was for 26,500. The her fee that we'll do is 17,500, plus the additional budget we requested for the travel expenses for final candidates.
I got you, and I'm looking right at it, and I heard you, and it just went through.
That's
But
okay.
anyway, thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. Thank you, everyone.
I had one thing too.
Yes, yes, sir.
Is this the time to discuss also the I'm getting a lot of emails about citizen input? Should we discuss that now, or is that something we need to wait on till the next meeting?
Her
Or-
proposal includes citizen input.
Yeah.
Okay, which are the surveys and
And that'll be part of the one-on-one meetings with Donna, will be to give her what you're looking for as far as the process goes, and then she will develop that process
Okay.
once that she gets input from all of y'all, that will come back
Okay.
to city council.
all right,
And I know we're all smart, and we just need to remember that, this is, you know, the city manager, whoever it may be, and police chief is going to represent all of Cocoa.
Yeah.
And so no one individual, you know, they just got to understand that's what the majority of the citizens want in groups. And so we just got to make sure we remind ourselves that, you know, of that. So that being said, anything else, Mr. City Manager? Or
I just want to make you all aware there will be a media release. I think it's actually been sent out already, related to the conversation we had on Sunday with one of our employees. So you may see
It's already hit the newspaper.
Yeah.
And then also just a reminder that Time Out also this Sunday again, they're going to be they got some funds in. A lot of the local businesses have reached out, and once again they're going to be serving about 1,000 meals this coming Sunday, same time 11 to 3 or 11 until they run out. But we appreciate all the businesses that have stepped up in these efforts. It's been quite a few of them, and I know I'm grateful, very grateful. So with that being said, Councilman Bovair.
Motion to adjourn.
Got a motion from Councilman Bovair to adjourn.
Second.
Second from Councilwoman Warner. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Anthony.
All right, have a good day. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you to everyone.